Hey now, it's Sharon, and I'm back to share another idea on how to better policing here in the U.S. If you're new to the channel, I'm a retired detective. I worked for 20 years for a southeastern city in the U.S., and I was also in the military. I'm sharing my experiences, ideas, opinions, in hopes of just giving you a different way to view things, or view it through my eyes, the way I saw it. Helping individual officers that are coming into the whole policing community, or the career officer that's already been there. I'm just giving you some things to think about, because we see how things are going here in the U.S. And when you put your right hand up and you swore to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of your state, there were certain things in there that you said that you would do. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. But I'm here to give you some insight on how I took racism out of my faith walk, and how I came about with that idea, or how I came about the idea was when I was being ostracized and retaliated against for telling the truth when I had to make statements as an officer. I spent a lot of time by myself because nobody wanted to be seen with me. I talk about that in other videos. Nobody wanted to be seen talking to me. And so I spent a lot of time by myself. And I used to spend a lot of time in the firefighters' lunchroom because it was away from everything. Nobody really came in there, certainly not officers. Maybe you might see one or two every now and again, mainly firefighters, and they were pretty friendly. So I stayed in that lunchroom, studying, reading, spending time by myself. And when I came upon the issue of who did I think I was, because I questioned that, being ostracized. I thought I had these certain friends. I did have friends that we're friends to this day. That's maybe two people. But the other ones that I call friends, they pulled away, if you will. So I started to question who I was, and I went in search of that. I had a lot of alone time to think about it, and especially when I was in the firefighters' lunchroom during my lunch breaks and stuff like that. And so the first question I asked is, what do I believe? Here I am doubting if I should have spoke up. I'm doubting if I should have told the truth because of the pushback I was getting, the nastiness I was getting, looking over my shoulder and being worried about if something's going to happen to me. The fact that my hair fell out, I talked about that, and that's why I have this haircut. I love it. But I started to question, what did I believe? And I called myself a Christian at the time. So I started to get into that, and I started to study more and read more. And what I discovered is there are 7 pillars that uphold society. They call them religion. I'm going to read it off. Religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business. Those are the 7 pillars they say uphold society. And government, being a police officer, was the biggest pillar to me at the time, followed by religion and family and education and so forth. But government, because I was a police officer, so I started to look more into that and read more. Bible, Apocrypha, different books and journals and things like that. And my identity as an officer, because of the studying, because of the hours I put in, because of the past classes, because of the shooting that I had to take to prove that I can handle the weapon and all that, that made me an officer. But was I an officer? So then I went to my religion, my faith walk. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm an officer when I put on the gun and badge. And I've even talked about that. When I take it off, that us versus them, us police officers versus them, community, whatever it is, the bad guys. When I take off the uniform, I become them for some officers. And I talked about that in other videos. So I said, okay, that's not my identity. That is a job that I identify with. How about that? So then I went to the religion pillar, and I started looking into what I believed. I found a lot. I wrote a book about it. It's right here. It's called, can you see it? Yeah. My Middle Eastern Conflict, Looking Back at My Future. You see the stick figure? You see that? See it? Yeah. It's a play on words, yes and no. But I started to get more into my faith, and Found out that I am Hebrew. I have a connection to the Israelites, the true Jews. And I'm not talking about converts. I'm talking about bloodline Jews. People convert all the time, but the bloodline Jews, I always thought there was no connection. They were gone, and there was only a handful left. And the people that we see in Israel, those are the people. Come to find out, they're not. They're not. But religion is a pillar that upholds society. And me, as an officer, I'm upholding the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of my state that I live in. I'm a representative. What was I representing in my faith walk as a Christian? And I questioned that. So then when I started to read, and I talk about this in the book, and I've talked about this before, I used to see the white Jesus and say, that is supposed to be my Lord and Savior, but he looks like the people that oppressed my ancestors. And we're supposed to worship that picture or that image of him looking like the oppressor? I had that question ever since I was little. But come to find out, the picture has been whitewashed, along with a lot of our education and things like that. And so I had to really like deconstruct from what I was told and what I know about, being a Christian and helping Israel. That was a must. You had to help Israel because Israel, they had the promised people. And I looked at myself as a Gentile. I talked about how I didn't see myself in the Bible at all. And now doing the research and finding out the truth, brown people are all throughout the Bible. I don't say black because black is a white supremacist construct. So I try to say brown most times. I might mess up and say black. But yeah, it's about brown people. Now I see myself in the Bible. I never used to see myself in the Bible. That helps with identity. Look, think about that. I'm 55 years old right now. And from, you might as well say 1, 2, even before 1, because I remember seeing my mother pray. I didn't know what she was doing at the time, but I would see her pray, pick up the book. I just knew it was a book, and she'd start reading. My experience with the Bible is, I can remember it from before I could start walking. Up until, I'll say 55, so up until the age of 40, 45, I started to discover the truth. What could that have done for my identity if I had seen myself in the Bible? I talk about how the only black person I saw in the Bible was Simeon, the man that carried the cross for Christ. And I would put my father's face on Simeon. What could that have done for my identity at that time? Growing up, I talk about when I was about 6 years old, we went to the beach, stayed out all day. Seagull stole my tuna fish sandwich, everything. I get back home and I look in the mirror and I'm looking and I'm like, I'm not black yet. Because people told me I was black. So I figured if I stayed in the sun all day, I would turn literally black. But you know what? I got what they call red, a golden brownish red. My hair started to turn red because the sun, but I didn't turn black because that's the identity I had or thought I had. So I started to deconstruct from that. Like I said, believing I was a Gentile and I'm going to be grafted in to those people over there that represent Israel. The people I'm talking about, not the land, the people. Come to find out, I'm a bloodline descendant of those people. What could I have done knowing, or I'm just saying, I probably would have carried myself a little bit differently, knowing that, the 5% is back in the day when you would walk past them, they say, you from royalty. And you'd be like, okay, yeah, thank you. They would say that all the time. And now I'm like, I am from royalty. It makes your shoulders kind of sit back a little bit, chest poke out a little bit. And no, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm just as good. But I had to deconstruct from learning about who I truly was and who I thought I was and who I was taught I was. And that took being a detective basically, because, you know, you got to find pieces of evidence, well, pieces and parts of things, facts, and put them together. And so that's what I did. I'll share that in another video. But yeah, you have to deconstruct from what you thought you knew, research, find out for yourself. I did it through journals, old journals from different colleges, old books. I even tried to find a book. I can't remember it, but 10 years ago, it was only $30-something. I didn't get it then. It's up to $1,300. That's another story. But yeah, deconstruct. So do some research on anything, on any of the pillars, wherever you feel that you weigh the heaviest in the pillar: religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, business. Those are the 7 pillars that uphold society. And I found myself questioning my identity because I told the truth. That's a therapy session, actually. But yeah, there were individuals within all these pillars that have a mindset of us versus them. And so going into the government, like I was in policing, I came with biases. I talk about that. But I started to deconstruct and see things with a wider lens, a better view, if you will. And that's all I'm going to share. Take a look at our online store. The link is in the description. Like, subscribe, share, comment, if you will. And I'll come back with part 2 on how I removed racism from my faith walk. Until then, as is our tradition, you don't necessarily have to go through a thing to learn from it. Talk to you later. Bye.